Welcome to Gold Shields. Join NYPD veterans Tom Smith and Dan Murphy. With over 50 years of combined experience chasing drug lords, dismantling cartels, and hunting terrorists. Now they pull back the curtain, sharing raw, unfiltered stories from the front lines and the heroes who stood beside them. No topics off limits. This is real. This is true crime. This is Gold Shields.
Welcome back to Gold Shields. This is Dan Murphy. I'm with you every week with my partner in crime, Tom Smith. How are you today, buddy?
Good, pal. This is great. This is going to be a very special episode for sure. Before we get to it, we're just going to do our housekeeping things and thank the people who kind of keep our lights on and our audios going and everything that goes into this show. We can't do this without our great sponsors, Streamlight, newspapers.com, and of course our newest big-time sponsor, Goals. Goals.com. Please check them out. Everything on their website and their tactical gear is a big part of our show. We can't thank them enough for being part of Gold Shields. And just check them all out. Streamlight.com, newspapers.com, and Goals.com. Big parts of our show, and we're really thrilled that all three of us have a part in this big-time ride we're on. Danny, who do we got today, buddy?
We're very blessed this morning. I have, through a colleague at work, I have made the acquaintance of, and I'm very honored to have her on today, a young lady named Carmen Montoya, who has a very unique story about her family's intersection with a horrific serial killer years ago. And she's graciously agreed to be on the show, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome to Gold Shields, Miss Carmen Montoya.
Hello, guys. How are you doing?
We're doing great today, Carmen. We cannot thank you enough for joining us today. To anyone who knows about the BTK, Find, Torture, Kill serial killer and the web of terror that he spread across this country for years, you may remember the first homicides that he committed. That was the Otero family. Carmen was born into this world, Carmen Otero. And in 1974, you and your family were living in Wichita, Kansas.
Correct.
You're a self-admitted Air Force brat, right?
Yes, very much so.
Your dad was a career Air Force man and a good man, and you had a great family. Could you take us back to January 15th, 1974, and your recollections of that day, Carmen?
All right. Well, to start off, Wichita, Kansas was freezing in January, and we had just come from the Panama Canal Zone a few months earlier. So this was our first real experience for wintertime. So that morning, we were all feeling pretty, I don't know, probably sick. And with this bad wind and everything, I really had really bad chaplets. And I asked my mother if I could stay home from school. And she said, no, you can't stay home from school. And then I realized, well, I had a basketball game that day. So I changed my mind and I was okay with it. So, typical morning, my dad took my brother, Danny, and I to school. And then he came back. And sometimes he would take the little ones. It was only about a block away, but most of the time they just walked to school. And that he didn't come back all the time. But this particular morning, after he dropped us off, he went back home. And when he went back home, Dennis Rader had entered our backyard. Okay. So he knocked on the door. Rader knocked on the door, and my little brother opened the door. And first, I don't remember the specifics, but anyway, he entered the house and he told my parents that he was not going to hurt anybody, but he just wanted some money. He was wanted by the police. He just wanted some money so he can go. And supposedly, according to Dennis Rader, my father told him, take this money, go ahead and go, and we won't say anything. But then Rader realized that everybody had seen his face. So, and these are words coming from him when we were in court. So he decided that he was not going to leave anyone alive. So he bound and tied my mother and held my father at gunpoint. And then he bound and tied my father. And my little brother and my little sister were there. And according to him, he said my little sister was in the corner crying, "Mommy, Mommy," and he just thought it was kind of funny. So he tied them. But then he went back. Everybody was in the same room, supposedly. Then he went back to my mother and he strangled her. And she knocked out. So then he went to my father and strangled him. And he knocked out. But I'm not sure which one at this point, but I think it was my mother who woke up. And he re-strangled her. Then he took my little sister down to the basement, did some little nasty things, not hurting her, hung her. And in the meantime, he had already put a bag around my little brother's head, put him in his room, and he went back upstairs and he watched him struggle until he died. And that's when he left the house. And after school, that was about by 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning. After school, my brother Danny and I were walking home from school, and my brother Charlie was coming home. Well, my mother usually picked us up. Well, she didn't pick us up that afternoon, so we were trying to figure out what was going on because it was really, really cold. It was below zero, I believe. And we really weren't equipped with the right winter coats at the time. So Danny and I were walking and we're just goofing off. And it took us about 15 minutes, whatever. We got to the back gate and it's open a little bit. And we're like, whoa, what's going on? You know, our dog, Lucky, was probably out. But we went to the back door and couldn't open it. So Danny said, well, I'm going to go to the front door. So he went to the front door. In the meantime, Lucky came from around the corner and he was trembling. And he was kind of a scary looking dog, although he didn't hurt people. But so I'm wondering what he's doing outside, and he looked like he was freezing. So I was able to get the back door open at the same time that Danny got in from the front door. So when you walk into the back door is the kitchen. So I walked into the kitchen and my mother's purse was on the counter and it was thrown. And the breakfast stuff was still out. So I was like, that was not like her. She was a stay-at-home mom and she kept the house really well. So I walked to the kitchen, and as soon as you get through the kitchen, there's a hallway. And then the hallway, it goes down. At the end of the hallway is my parents' bedroom. And then there was another bedroom, me and my sister's bedroom and my little brother's bedroom. And across the way. So I looked down the hall and the door was slightly open. And I see what looked like the tips of 2 feet sideways on top of each other. I'm like, what's going on? That was just really strange. So I went to open the door. And meanwhile, I'm calling my mom and she's not answering. So I push open the door and there's something stuck. So I pushed it some more and it was my father's feet. It was tied like that. And when I looked down, I saw his feet. Of course, I was in shock. But I look up and my mother was laying across her bed on her back with her hands tied behind her back. So instincts took over and I ran and I pushed her up and she was stiff. So it was really hard to get her up. Once I got her up, the ropes were tied around her neck. And all I kept thinking was, I got to get her to breathe. I got to get her to breathe. So there was nail clippers on the dresser. And I got the nail clippers and I cut the rope as well as I could and realized that she was already gone. At this point, Danny came in and he's trying to undo the belt around my dad's neck. And that didn't help anything, of course. It had long been gone. And then Danny's saying, well, we got to get out of here. And I said, but what are they doing? What kind of tricks are they playing on us? And then, like, who's going to take care of me now? You know, what the heck's going on? Just you're in another world. So then we hear our brother Charlie running in. And he's like throwing things and running around, and he's seeing what we're doing, and he's wondering what's going on too. So he says, we got to go call the police. So Danny runs out to the neighbor's house, and the neighbor happened to be outside. And we didn't know anybody. We'd only been there for a few months in that house. So I think we moved in August, and this happened in January. And so she let us, because Danny had tried to use our phone, and it was cut. The wires were cut. So he ran down to her house and called the police, and they were there, I don't know, a few minutes later. But then there was police everywhere. All kinds of cops were in the house, running around, looking at everything. And next thing you know, they're pulling bodies out, and they take us down to the police station and do our fingerprints. I'm like, why are we being fingerprinted? Well, we just had to make sure, whatever happened, we know whose fingerprints belong where and all this other stuff. But to a kid, I'm thinking, what, you think we did this? Because it was just too wild. So in the meantime, I got to remember it was just my mother and my father that we had seen. In the meantime, where's my brother and sister? I said, we got to be home. My brother and sister come home, the little ones. And they said, well, we'll wait for them and we'll let you know when they're here. That kind of thing. So we're at the police station, and a priest comes in, and he tells us, I believe it was the priest that told us, that Josie and Joey had also been killed. And that was all they could tell us. So from there, we're just in shock, trying to figure out what's going to happen with our life as a 13, 14, and 15-year-old.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. How old were you that morning?
13.
13 years old. Unbelievable. Anybody who's followed the case is aware of the Otero family murders as being the quote-unquote start, or the kickoff, so to speak, of his killing career. But for you to have been there and seen that, I can't imagine how shocking that is to a 13-year-old. So the police take you back. You're in the police station, and you're getting fingerprinted, which we as detectives understand is for elimination prints. It's just as they said, to make sure that they know who belongs in the house and whose prints didn't. What else do you remember about that day?
Well, the first thing that we were trying to figure out is, who do we call? Because, like I said, we were in the United States for a few months. And my brothers had remembered that my uncle, who's not really my uncle, he was a really close friend of my dad. They met in the Air Force. And our both families being very close. And they kept in touch, the adults did. More so than us children, of course. Realize what you have at that time. So we called my Uncle John, and he came to get us from a friend of ours' house, let me go back a little bit. One day I was in school, and then all of a sudden I heard somebody call my name, and my nickname back then was Biddy. Nobody called me that. So I turned around, and it was my friend Linda from Panama. We were friends on base. They were in Wichita at the time, but we didn't know that. So anyway, we had gone to their parents' house because Linda called her parents. Wait, I'm getting confused. We called my aunt and uncle, and Uncle John asked us if there was anywhere where we could go, along with the police asking us if there was anywhere we could go. And right away we thought about Linda and her family. So we called them. They contacted them. They came to pick us up. We stayed with them for the night, and my uncle had driven from Albuquerque to Wichita the next morning to come get us. And we stayed there for a couple of days, and then they took us back to Albuquerque.
So you left Wichita, went to Albuquerque, and that's where you stayed from that point on?
Pretty much until about 5 years ago.
So the police investigation is going on. You're just kids, and you've been relocated out to Albuquerque. what involvement or what engagement did the police have with you to tell you about the status of what they were finding out, or whatever?
They, to be honest, they were freaked out. That had never happened there, and the fact that we didn't even know anybody there. There was all kinds of crazy stories going on out there. Like, there was a hitman, and within hours, but we didn't hear about that till later. But yeah, the police were just so confused, and it was pretty evident because when they entered the home, there were so many of them walking everywhere and touching and everything. And I think it was like a day later or a couple days later, and I totally forgot about this until I was talking to one of my brothers about it. I had these dreams where I was going back to the house, and there was yellow taped bodies, and my brothers told me that actually happened. They had taken us back to the house to get a couple of things. Then they had taken us to our school to get our stuff out of our lockers or whatever. But pretty much within 2 or 3 days, we were gone from Wichita.
Wow. And here's the disturbing part of this. You know, you're the first ones on the scene, so your accounts are very, very important when it comes to the investigation. You know, so Dan and I looking at it from the detective point of view, that your key witnesses are kids who just witnessed the most traumatic thing they're ever going to do. And if your account at that time was what it is now, I mean, they must have been, okay, great, you know, thinking of a evidentiary part of it, that you were able to provide so much information. But my question to you, Carmen, is while you're in Albuquerque, this madness and this spree goes on for 17 more years in Wichita, and all you care about is finding the person who took your family. How is that with you and your brothers? Did you get what I'm trying to get at? I'm sorry. Were you getting news of other murders happening within Wichita for that period of time that is now A plus B is adding up to maybe the same person that did this?
Well, I think I pretty much separated my stuff from it because within 3 years, I had met my husband-to-be, and I started a family by the time I was 19. So, you know, I wanted to be a kid. You know, I played my sports, I did my skating, I had my friends. So up until I was like almost 17 when I met my husband. So I kind of kept away from that. I know my brother Charlie was more into the news of, you know, maybe what's happening in Wichita, but for years we didn't know anything was together. Anything, you know, was like tied to one specific person. And to me, Wichita that's somebody else's world, not mine. So pretty much had a normal life until I don't even remember the years, until they thought they had a suspect. And that's when it got a little scary. Because I see at one time, actually, I was pregnant with my second child, and I got a phone call. So this was like 1982, I believe. I got a phone call from someone, and I'm almost positive he said it was Mr. Johnson. And that name just stuck with me. And he said he was trying to get a hold of Joseph Otero. And I asked him how he got my number, and he says, well, I got your number through the phone book. Remember the white and yellow pages back in the day? So I was under as Carmen Otero. So he called me, and it just threw me. And I had told him, I said, you're looking for my father, Joseph Otero? He said, yes. And I said, well, my father passed away years ago. And he said, do I have the right Carmen Otero? And he just kept, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. This is kind of scary. And so I went to the police station. And I remember telling them who I was. This is in Albuquerque. Telling them who I was and about the phone call that I had gotten. And they said, well, you know, they would, if they wanted to, I could put like a tap or something on my phone or things like that. That was so long ago. I said, no, I just wanted to tell somebody just in case anything came of it. But after that, everything was just quiet for me, raising my family.
Can you tell us a little bit, share with us, please, what you remember, and you had 13 years with them, about your mom, your dad, your brother, and your sister who were lost that day?
Oh, sure. I love this part. Apparently, my mom and dad knew each other when they were kids. And
looking for powerful defense without the mess? Meet Impact, a revolutionary line of chemical irritants designed for law enforcement, military, and personal protection. With no blowback, no cross-contamination, and easy cleanup, Carry Impact delivers unmatched stopping power without the hassle. Whether you're in the field or on the street, safety should never be compromised. Protect yourself with the next generation of defense. Carry Impact, stopping power, redefined. Have you ever wished you could go back in time and see the events that shape the true crime cases that fascinate you? With newspapers.com, it's like having a time machine to the past. Dive into more than 1 billion newspaper pages from 1690 to 2025 and relive the headlines that shocked entire towns. Explore newspapers from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and beyond with a simple search. Read the breaking news as it happened, crime scene reports, witness testimonies, and courtroom drama. Explore forgotten clues and see how the media shaped the narrative of infamous cases. But it's not just the major stories. Newspapers.com lets you dig into local mysteries, missing persons reports, and the small-town scandals that history forgot. It's the closest you can get to being there when it all unfolded. So, if you're ready to dig deeper into the crimes that keep you up at night, start your journey today at newspapers.com. Use the code GOLDSHIELDS for an exclusive 20% discount on your subscription.
As active as well as retired police officers, we all know that you can buy gear from a lot of different places, especially online. But I want to remind you of the importance of supporting companies that support law enforcement. And I don't know a company that fits the bill more than Galls. Their motto is proud to serve those who serve, which they do every single day. And they walk the talk by supporting dozens of public safety-focused organizations like Gold Shields. So when you are looking for gear, support our sponsor and go to Galls.com. And Galls has done something special for our listeners. Go to Galls.com and use the promo code GOLD15 and receive 15% off the next purchase you make. That offer is good until July 31st. Make sure you go to Galls.com. Support them any way you can. Use the promo code GOLD15 and get a special 15% off your purchase.
there's a story where when my mother was coming from Puerto Rico to New York, she got lost on the banana boat. So everybody was searching everything and they found her. She was just really tiny. But they knew each other. And I was told that they eloped and then came back and had a wedding. And my dad was very serious. He demanded respect. And, back then in the days of the military, if you were told something, you didn't ask why. You did what you needed to do. And that's how we were raised. And my mom was really goofy, very funny, and they loved to dance. My father was gone a lot. Being in South America, the TDY and all that, he was always somewhere in South America, but they could never tell us where he was. So my mom raised us pretty much on her own. Come home for a couple of months and be gone and back and forth. My little sister Josie was very much the book kid. She loved reading. Very quiet, kind of a serious kid. And then I think the worst thing Josie ever did was on her bike. She got on her bike and she rode to the library on base without telling anybody. and was gone for a couple hours. And that was the worst thing I ever saw her do. My little brother Joey he was adorable. He was charming. Tried to keep up with my brothers. Um, very, very sweet kid. Very sweet kid. I think he would have been great.
Well, your memories say it all, and that's the important part. You have those memories to always hold on to, and those thoughts of better times, obviously, that you have with them, and that's what's important. And it's great when Dan just asked that. We just went from listening to this horror story, and as soon as Dan asked you that, you got a big smile on your face. Yeah. Even all these years later. And that gives me a chill, watching you go from one extreme to another, but still have that memory of a big smile on your face when you hear their names.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We had a great childhood. We really did. Growing up in Panama, we played hide and seek in the jungles. We went to the beach. And the best thing about living on base back then is all those kids from all over the world in the country living on base, and everybody was curious of where you were from, what you did, just being people. That was awesome. And that was a big part of my childhood, was getting to know all kinds of people.
So this situation obviously changes you and your brother and sister's lives. You move to Albuquerque, you raise a family. There's little, if any, news about who could have been responsible for this, but that changes. And tell us about when that changed.
Well, I was at work, and I believe it was my brother, Charlie, who called me and said that there was going to be a couple of FBI agents coming to see me. They had some questions for me, and they wanted to talk to me about something. I'm like, oh, I knew what it was. Okay. Why else would they want to talk to me? So they came to my job, and we were talking and going through some evidence, asking me questions if I know who this bracelet belonged to, or this radio, or just all kinds of things like that. And we had a nice discussion for probably about an hour and a half. And of course, that's when they had a suspect. There had been a couple of suspects. I believe one was a man who worked on the railroads or something like that. He was a suspect, but it ended up not being. But anyway, this went on for a while. They would call me and ask me little questions here and there after they left back to Wichita. And they said that they had somebody that they were pretty sure of, and they would keep me informed. And that went on. I don't even remember how long that went on. It wasn't that long. It was just a crazy time. I mean, you get to the point where you're back to looking over your shoulders again and, wondering who's watching you. And I never told my kids. How my family died. I always told them they died in an accident. Because to me, that was just too much information. I remember how I felt when all this went down. I could not imagine my teenage kids knowing that their mother went through this.
And we've heard that before, that juggling act of later in life after an event like this, when you're younger, what to tell kids about grandparents, in your case, grandparents. We've heard that before, and that has to be difficult to maneuver around. It's in you, it. It's hard to keep something inside you for that long, especially when it comes to your kids, and we understand that challenge. Now it gets to a point, Carmen, where they get someone. They got them. Do you, before you get into all that, I'm very curious, and we've asked other people this before. I think Kathy Kleiner, with Ted Bundy, we asked her, when you find out that they got him, are you relieved or are you mad?
All I remember was shaking and calling my husband and telling him they found him. I was angry. I know I was angry. But I was also, I don't even think I was relieved. I was just angry. Just crazy mixed emotions. All I kept thinking was, so who is that face behind that name? And this was the last face that my little sister saw, last face that my mom saw. All those things those kind of things kept coming to me.
Wow. So now it's all getting resurrected in the press, too. They're going over blow by blow of his killing history. And your family was the first, and a very significant loss at that. It wasn't a one-off. It was a family. And just, so that must have been very difficult for you, because at that point, you've got to have frank discussions with your children, don't you?
It was wild. And I think that's when I first really started to learn how to compartmentalize. Is that the right word?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I got really good at that. Gosh, I don't know, when it came to my kids, it took me, I believe my kids were at school and they were showing it on the TV. And I'm almost positive this is what happened. My mother's picture came out on the TV. And my daughter, Leah, somebody was telling her she looked just like her. Leah came home. She was so confused and so upset. And that's when I think that's when I told her. And then shortly thereafter, told the other kids. I'm getting a little confused about it because it's been so long, but I'm pretty sure that's how it happened.
No, we understand completely, and we're going to take a second and think about this first half of this episode, and we're just going to throw out what we normally do at this time. Just a thank you to our sponsors as usual: Goals.com, Streamlight, Newspapers.com, and a very big part of our show, Dan, is Copline, Copline.org, who is in the business and professionals about helping police officers out there going through some tough times, and a hotline that is manned 24/7, 7 days a week, 365, of former police officers who have gone through stressful situations and mental health issues. So please remember them to call when you need them. 1-800-267-5463. Please, anyone who's out there who needs to speak to someone, reach out to copline.org, 1-800-267-5463.
Carmen, you had those conversations, and your children are now aware it's all out. You have to relive a lot of it. I can imagine that wasn't easy, but now court proceedings are starting. Tell me how your life changed when that started. More media attention, court proceedings. What was that like?
One of the first things that comes to my mind is I started getting phone calls from people that I worked with. And he's like, how come you never told us? You said that they died in an accident. I said, well, how do you tell somebody this? Oops. Did I lose you?
No, we're here. We're still good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my husband about it, and I'm like, well, what do we do? Am I supposed to face him? Do we want to be there? All those questions coming to my mind, and that's all I could think about. And then I remember at work, one day I was just messing around, and I just got on the website, some website, and all of a sudden all these people are saying, that they knew us and that they babysat us and they knew us personally, and that really messes with your head because you don't know who these people are. And, who gives them the right to say these things? That's when I really realized how social media can be so messed up. Yeah, it was, and then going to, I think we missed the first court date, but then we went to the second one, and I think he surprised everybody and pleaded guilty. Yeah, that was interesting. What was really hard was to be like not even 20 feet away from him and have him ramble on and on and on. I mean, he just talked so freely, so crazy, so just a rambler. And it took a lot to not, get up and try to do something because all three of us were feeling very anxious. And my husband and my son were there in another room. And at one point before the sentencing or whatever it was, my brothers and I had decided that before he had a chance to get up and speak on his behalf, we were going to get up and leave the courtroom. Because there's not much of a statement you can make besides your victim statement. So we did that, and he actually almost stopped for a second, like he couldn't believe that we were disrespecting him. That's how much he thought of himself. Yeah.
That's not unique. People like him, and there are people like him, sadly, in this world, have a very inflated sense of their self-importance. And reading about his case is filled with that. He loved the attention. He wanted the attention. He was upset when he wasn't getting attention anymore, right?
Yes. There's so many things that happened in that trial that I'll never forget. Like, when they put up the picture of my sister downstairs in the basement, Helen, I hadn't seen that. None of us had seen that. So, I mean, they told us they were going to show evidence, but we were not expecting that. And then they showed my little brother, and that was a shocker too. But he was saying things like, my parents were going to be his servants in his next life, and different kind of deviant servants. And did you know that during the court, the district attorney had pulled some index cards. He kept index cards on people that he's just, following and stuff. And one was Halle Berry, and another one was Meg Ryan. And he had this information on what he would like to have done for them. And one was also of the district attorney. So her face was, oh boy.
Yeah, there's a different kind of evil in him that we haven't seen before. And it goes to what you said, Dan, with the egotistical part of him and wanting to be what he was. And I think that played a part in the whole pleading guilty thing, because that was a shock to everybody. And I think even his team, that he just went, okay, enough, and got up and just started doing what he did. And that was a shock to all of us watching it, at a different level in a different area. I could imagine just you and your family sitting there, and all of a sudden, boom, this starts, and what you must have felt. I mean, and that just lays into the evilness of him, I think.
Yeah, it was difficult to sit there. It really was. And another thing that was so hard about it all is watching. Okay, after we did our victim statement, a few of the other people, some victims' families stood up, And one of them, it was just weird because it was, I don't know, I felt so sad for her. Although we had all been through the same thing, it hit me so different because I think everybody processes things differently. And to see her practically almost not able to stand while she was speaking was just so difficult, extremely difficult.
That was my next question. It had to do with the other victims' families and loved ones. You just joined, you have a different family now to a certain extent, right? You have this shared experience with these other folks. Have you made friendships or connections with those people or some of them?
Not really. I let this young lady know how I felt, and I thought she was very brave. And but for me, still, Wichita is another world. I just back in the 70s. If you were not black or white, it was different. And so we got harassed a little bit. We didn't have many friends. And so I kind of kept to myself there. And then after this whole situation, for me, Wichita just is, I shouldn't say evil, but it's just no good memories there. So I just kept that separate. I've been back once or twice, but on business.
Understandable.
And that's understandable. I mean, that is, and I think the last question I got for you, Carmen, because we hear it all the time, and now to get a absolute perspective of it from you, all of us at a different, angle always hears the closure part. When he finally, gets 10 life sentences for what he did, is there any closure to you or your brothers or anything when it comes to this once everything with Dennis Rader is over?
Absolutely not. The reason why I say that, I've heard people say you need to forgive, and well, I forgive myself for letting it get me so low at times. I will never forgive him. That doesn't mean he consumes any of my daily thoughts. It's just the way it is. Yeah. The hard parts is, okay, this will never be over because each time one of my children turned 13, all I kept thinking about, how in the world could they have handled this? Now I've got 11 grandkids. And you've met Kiala. She's the oldest of my grandkids. When she turned 13, I was like blown away. Wait a minute, this is my grandchild. It's a whole different level. How could she get through such craziness? And then it makes you think, how did I get through such craziness? But then and take it to on another level, and it's like, well, I did. That doesn't mean somebody else can. And how did I? I still don't know.
I think you have a lot of strength in you. I think Tom and I will probably comment on that afterwards to each other about the ability for you to step up in front of a microphone, share your story this way, and be brought back in your mind to so much pain and loss. There's a strength in you that not everybody has. You're right. Tom and I have dealt with so many crime victims. Not everybody processes grief, loss, and pain and trauma differently. And you have a strength in you, and that's a blessing.
I think I got it from my mom.
Yeah. Perfect answer.
Something that I've told people many times because I hear that often, but it doesn't, I don't take it in. Okay.
You don't think it's about you.
Yeah. But there is something that I've told people that is like, sometimes you get too strong, it makes you weak because you don't really take in what's there. And
How to take it for
you need
granted.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
You kind of take it for granted.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to step back.
Patriot is a premium whiskey hard seltzer. We've carefully crafted 4 flavors that not only taste exceptional, but can be enjoyed on any occasion, anytime. We're committed to giving back 5% of all profits to the core groups we call the backbone of America. We are proud to help those who serve our great country. This is America's Seltzer, the brand that stands for quality, community, and the American spirit.
When it comes to the safety of law enforcement, first responders, and military personnel, every moment counts, especially in the dark. Streamlight provides the reliable, high-performance lighting solutions that these heroes trust in the most dangerous situations, whether it's a car stop, navigating dark alleyways, or exploring abandoned buildings. With Streamlight by their side, our heroes can tackle challenges with confidence, knowing they have the power of advanced lighting technology to guide them. From the first responders on the front lines to the law enforcement officers ensuring our safety, Streamlight is there to make every mission a little easier and much safer. Join us in supporting those who protect us. Visit Streamlight.com to discover how you can be part of the team keeping our heroes safe. Because when they shine, we all shine.
And there's a numbing that can take place too. People who've been through
Exactly.
terrible things can get very numb, and they can mistake that for strength, when in reality, it's just your body freezing up to protect you. And at some point, you have to let yourself feel. So don't confuse that with strength. I think yours is different than that. I think yours is an actual strength, which is different than that, I think. That's just my observation. That's all.
All right, thank you.
I'm thinking it.
So this conversation is one that Tom and I talked about it. We're blessed to have you on the show. We want it to be very respectful, and you've been very frank about what you saw, and that's something our listeners need to hear. That we want them to hear a couple of things. One is that these things do happen in this world, and two, that most of us have a strength within us to go on. And you have gone on and built a family and built a life. God bless you for that. And I know your granddaughter, Kiala, well. She's one of the sweetest human beings ever born. And so there's a purpose for everything, and you're living that out. And it's just such an honor to get a chance to speak to you today. And I can't wait to meet with you for coffee because we live so close to each other.
I know.
Yeah, we're not far away from each other at all. So,
Yeah, who would thought I'd end up in Minnesota?
believe me,
It says that every day.
I'm the poster child for what am I doing here, Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Well,
You know what, there's one thing that I wanted to say that I forgot.
please do.
This all started off, according to Rader, is he was trolling neighborhoods. And he saw my mother and my sister getting out of the vehicle, this old station wagon that we had. And he said he just was targeted to Josie. She was just the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. But he's not a pedophile, according to him. Okay. So anyway, that's, he said, what started it. And then he started following her and the family.
You know what that reminds me of, Tom? I know you're about to say something, but that really reminds me, it harkens me back to a discussion we had. And it had to do with the statements of Mr. Jeffrey Dahmer after he was arrested. And Jeffrey Dahmer admitted freely to doing the vast majority of the things that he did. But one thing he would not, and he was very upset at being asked about the 13-year-old boy and whether or not he was a pedophile, because it was a 13-year-old boy that escaped his home and was returned back, who had a nail in his head, a crazy case. But he was taken aback. He was insulted. I'm not a pedophile.
Yeah.
So no matter how bad somebody is, they have a certain threshold. They say, at least I'm not that, right?
Right. It's wild. But that just shows how their mind is not.
Not there. No, you
Not
said
there at all.
and it's so true. You just, you you try to, you can't figure it out. We're never gonna, and the world needs to be rid of them. That's for sure. But Carmen, I'm going to echo what Dan said. It was an honor to have you on, and your strength through your words are incredible. I mean, just your composure, your recollection, your storytelling ability in something so traumatic is incredible. And it was a privilege to have you on this show. We've had a lot of people on this show, a lot of stories, a lot of emotional stories, but the composure you showed talking about this will never be forgotten. So thank you very, very much.
I thank you.
And I'm fully convinced and quite confident that your parents, your brother and your sister, are in heaven in God's care, watching over you and your family and waiting for when that day comes when you join them.
Oh,
So
I got a lot of questions.
Oh yeah. I'm sure you do.
Well, again, thank you so much. And at this part of the show, we normally reserve for our law enforcement officers out there and praying for them and our military vets. But on top of that, we're going to change it a little bit today, Dan, and have everyone pray for victims of crimes and victims' families of crimes.
Survivors.
Because that doesn't go away. The memories stay, the memories last. And it's a continuous process of getting by in life and getting to the next day. And the families of victims need our help, our strength, and our prayers. So on top of what we normally do at this part of the show, please remember and keep to your heart, your soul, and your mind victims out there of crimes and their families and what's needed to get them by each day. Please do that for them. And Carmen is a perfect example of that. So that's what we're going to do after the show. Everyone's going to pray for some victims out there and their families. So for my partner, Dan Murphy, for an incredible, unbelievably strong, influential guest, Carmen Montoya. This is Tom Smith for Gold Shields. Everyone out there, remember youtube.com/Gold Shields, our website, thegoldshieldshow.com, and every audio channel you can think of. Please follow us, subscribe, hit the bell, follow us on Instagram, The Gold Shield Show, all that good stuff to keep this show going because our show is all about you, and we don't have a show without you. So continue to support us, and thank you, everyone. Dan, Carmen, everyone out there, stay safe. We'll see everybody soon.
Hey, Gold Shields, OT, overtime. Cops love overtime. Tom, what a show, huh?
I don't care who you are. You could read every book you want. You could read every article you want. You could see documentaries all you want. When you sit on a show like this and you hear directly of what happened and how they were found and all that, it's a different level, man. That is heartbreaking to think of being 13 and walking into that nightmare.
Yeah. And she is such a strong lady and such a calm teller of the story in honor of her mother, father, brother, and sister. BTK made international headlines as this grotesque, gruesome, brutal, savage murderer. And his first victims were her family. And had she left for school a little bit later that day, she would have been one of them.
You know what? That you can't even, I mean, to put that into words is crazy. But you think about that murder spree for 17 years and the amount of victims, and it started with her family. And to like I said when I said it, and I didn't even think about it until you hear her answer to nothing for 17 years when it comes to your family being obliviated. And it's just ongoing, and it's another family, it's another victim, and I understand her age with not really keeping track of it, but I kind of put myself in Charlie's shoes of what she said of him keeping up more with it. I mean, could you imagine that, Dan? Like, that's another family, another victim, and thinking you were the first. My God.
Well, once the media gets a hold of the fact that the police are looking into a number of killings as related and done by one perpetrator, and they label that person BTK, which was actually, I think, his idea. He liked it, find, torture, kill. But once that happens and you know that that's what happened to your family, how do you not pay attention to it all the time? She did her best to pay attention to her own life, so credit to her. But then it all starts again. Now we got a suspect. Now the police are back in touch with you. Now prosecutors are in touch with you. Now the guy's under arrest. Now he's talking. Now you're in the press all over. Every time you turn around, your family, the images of your family being pulled out of your house in Wichita are right there. I can't imagine the pain and the difficulty and the trauma of having to relive discovering your family members brutally killed. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that it's the stuff of nightmares, and yet we have this poised, contained woman who is just willing to share her story because she wants her story to be known in honor of her family, and also as a way of showing you can get through these things and you can have a life. She's testament to that. She's somebody I'm very proud to now say I know. I mean, that's all I could say.
Yeah, I mean the strength that she showed and just the poise. And I'm actually, I'll be honest, I was sitting here waiting for her to just break down. And I had it in my head of, all right, yeah, and we've done this before, Dan, with emotional stories and guests needing a break. And I actually had it in my head what to say once that happened, and it didn't come.
I was looking for it too, to be honest with you.
I was just waiting. Like, at some point, she's just going to put her head down and we're just going to have to take the show and, and say something. And I had it, okay, just say this if this happens. And she just kept going and going with it. Unbelievable. And I mean, tragic. And people out there, everyone out there who listens to us and probably has a good idea of Dennis Rader. But if you don't, take a look. The most brutal stuff you can imagine in the deepest, darkest part of your brain, this idiot did. This monster did. And it's unreal what he did to people.
So she's made a conscious decision to, she said, compartmentalize, right? Which is my life pre-1974 and who I am afterwards. And she is trying to take advantage of the life that she's been given. Raising a family, getting married, raising a family, having children, having grandchildren, working, contributing to society, doing all those things without letting Dennis Rader's brutal acts derail her life any more than he had to. So that's a strong person right there. And that's somebody that is it's an example of what you, the human being and the human spirit, can do after trauma.
I mean, we cut ourselves short a lot of what we can accomplish, both mentally and physically. We do it all the time, just as human beings, because we get limits in our heads of either people telling us or just ourselves doing it, of I can't go past that. And we're so much stronger than that. And she's an example of that. You're absolutely right. Just an incredible story, heartbreaking, but a show of just strength and what life can be like afterwards, and she's an example of that.
Phenomenal lady. And well, we thank our audience. We know that this is not an easy subject to talk about. She did spare some of the details of things. You can tell that out of respect for her family. And it's exactly, we tell all our guests, this is your story. Tell it how you want to tell it. And she told it the way she did, and she's a remarkable woman.
Yep, absolutely. A pleasure to have, and we're fortunate to have someone like her on our show, and just incredible. That's all. But another one, Danny, one we won't forget, that's for darn sure.
Not at all. Nope.
Right.
Not
so
at all.
Everyone out there, listen, thanks again. As Dan said, thanks for everything you do for us. Another week down, checked off, and we'll be back again soon. Everyone, please stay safe, keep supporting the show, and thank you for everything you do for us. Dan, be good. Talk to you soon, partner.
You got it, brother. Adios.